माते हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Ritesh Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna Prabhupada. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatadeshitarine. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Hey, so we all set for our prayer. Anybody would like to sing today? Yesterday Shamakarna Mataji sang, Shri Mataji sang. Anybody else would like to try? First 10 verses of Bhajagovindam Stotram. Okay, I will go ahead then. Let's see. Okay. Bhajagovindam Stotram by Sri Pad Adi Shankaracharya. Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Rakshati Dukrin Karane, Mudhajahi Dhanagamatrishnam, Guru Satbuddhim Manasi Vitrishnam, Yallabhase Nija Karmopatam, Vittam Tena Vinodaya Chittam, Naristana Nabhidesham, Drishtva Maga Mohavesham, Etanmam Shavasadi मनसि विचिन्तय वारं वारं नलिनीदलगत जलमतितरलं तद्वज्जीवित मतिशयचपलं विद्धि व्याध्य भीमानग्रस्तं लोकं शोकहतं च समस्तं यावद्वित्तोपार्जनसक्तः स्थावन्निजपरिवारो रक्तः पश्चाज्जीवति जर्जरदेहे वार्तां कोऽपि न पृच्छति गेहे यावत् पवनो निवसति देहे तावत् पृच्छति कुशलं गेहे गतवति वायौ देहापाये भार्या बेभ्यति तस्मिन् काये बालास्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणास्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परिब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः काते कान्ता कस्ते पुत्रः संसारोऽयमतीव विचित्रः कस्य त्वं कः कुत आयातः तत्त्वं चिन्तय तदिह भ्रातः सत्सङ्गत्वे निस्सङ्गत्वं निस्सङ्गत्वे निर्मोहत्वम् निर्मोहत्वे निश्चलतत्त्वं निश्चलतत्त्वे जीवन्मुक्तिः वयसि गते कः कामविकारः शुष्के नीरे कः कासारः क्षीणे वित्ते कः परिवारः ज्ञाते तत्त्वे कः संसारः भज गोविन्दम् भज गोविन्दं गोविन्दं भज मूढमते हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण. Right. भजगोविंदम स्तोत्रम की जय, श्रीपाद आदि शंकराचार्य की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. Okay, we're ready for translation. I would like to do the service of reading the translations for the first 10 verses.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Please, Mataji. Yes.
Translation. Worship Govinda, worship Govinda, worship Govinda, O fool. Rules of grammar will not save you at the time of your death. O fool, give up your first to amass wealth, devote your mind to thoughts to the real. Be content with what comes through action already performed in the past. Do not get drowned in delusion by going wild with passions and lust by seeing a woman's navel and chest. Bodies are flesh, fat, and blood. Do not fail to remember this again and again in your mind. Uncertain is the life of man as raindrops on a lotus leaf. Know that the whole world remains a prey to disease, ego, and grief. So long as a man is fit and able to support his family, see the affection of all those around him show. But no one at home cares to even have a word with him when his body totters due to old age. When one is alive, his family members inquire kindly about his welfare. But when the soul departs from body, even his wife runs away in fear of the corpse. Childhood is lost in play. Youth is lost by attachment to women. Old age passes away by thinking over many past things. Alas, hardly is there anyone who yearns to be lost in Parabrahman. Who is your wife? Who is your son? Strange is this samsara. Of whom are you? Where have you come from? Brother, ponder over these truths. From satsanga comes non attachment. From non attachment comes freedom from delusion, which leads to self settledness. From self settledness comes jivan mukti, liberation. What good is lust when youth has fled? What use is a lake which has no water? Where are the relatives when wealth is gone? Where is samsara, the continuation of birth and death, when the truth is known? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Hey, as we keep reading these again and again, hopefully something sticks in our brain and able to remember some of these instructions by Sripad Adi Shankaracharya. Okay. All right, let's continue with Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit, continuing from chapter 26, Swamiji's departure. Since Srila Prabhupada is now flown back from California to New York, and we see the mood of loving separation that's happening in California and now in New York as they are at the airport. And Prabhupada is about to board, but even while he's living every moment that he is with his disciples, it's fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. It's all about kirtan, it's all about chanting, dancing, and immersing our consciousness at the Lord by the practice of bhakti. So even at the airport, they are playing the Hare Krishna record. They're doing kirtan, and finally they collected some money as well yesterday. And Prabhupada said, "This is all Krishna's mercy." And now, yeah, Prabhupada is almost in the final moments, is embracing his disciples. And let's see what happens next. Okay, anybody would like to read today? Continuing from here, from where Rupanuga Prabhu recollects. Okay, then I'll go ahead. All right, Rupanuga. Swamiji was embracing the men, Kirtanananda, Brahmananda, Gargamuni. I never expected that he would ask me to step forward. I didn't consider myself in the same category with the other devotees, so I was very much surprised when Swamiji motioned to me and spoke my name. Rupanuga. I got up and walked to Swamiji. It might have been 10 feet, but it seemed like a long distance. I embraced him, and that embrace was the most memorable embrace of my life. Right away, I noticed Srila Prabhupada's strength. He was so strong. It was like embracing a young man, a man my age. I was 27, and he seemed even stronger and younger than I. And he hugged me tightly, and I also embraced him very firmly. He was smaller than me in stature, so I instinctively buried my chin in the hollow of his left shoulder. While I was embracing him, I felt very blissful, and I felt a light. I felt there was a light, something bright and pure, some kind of energy emanating from my face. I opened my eyes and I saw Ketananda watching. He was standing behind Swamiji, a few feet away, and I looked right into his eyes. And I was so happy and blissful that it reflected in him somehow. He broke into a big smile at me, and his eyes were very bright. It was as if some spiritual energy was actually emanating from me. That airport scene was a very important part of my life because for me, a person who always had difficulty in loving another person, Swamiji's leaving forced out a lot of love from my heart. I didn't even know I didn't even know was there. I It's like becoming a spiritual person when you feel love really developing for the spiritual master. I was becoming a spiritual person. It was a tremendous outpouring of feelings of separation and grief at his departure, because we all knew he was our life and soul. And to a person, none of us were sure we would ever see him again. Accompanied by Ketanananda, whose head was shaven and who wore an incongruous black woolen suit, Prabhupada walked slowly toward the gate. As he disappeared from view, the devotees ran for the observation deck to get a last look at his departing plane. A gentle rain was washing the airfield as the devotees raced across the wet observation deck. There, below were Prabhupada and Ketananda walking towards their plane. Abandoning decorum, the devotees began to shout. Prabhupada turned and waved. He climbed the movable stairway, turning again at the top and raising his arms, and then entered the plane. The devotees chanted wildly while the boarding steps moved away. The door closed and the plane began to turn. The devotees had pressed close to the rail, but they pulled back as the jet exhaust blasted them with heat. With a great roar, the Air India jet, lights blinking, taxied out to the runway. The devotees continued to chant Hare Krishna until the plane left the ground, became a speck in the sky, and then disappeared. Hare Krishna. Okay. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Let's continue to chapter 27. India Revisited, Part 1. The plane flew during the night and arrived in London by morning. Srila Prabhupada had planned a stopover. He checked into an airport hotel, took his massage, and rested. In the afternoon, he rose and bathed, and then he and Ketanananda boarded their plane bound for New Delhi via Moscow. While the plane was still on the ground, however, a crew member announced a short delay due to health regulations. A passenger who had disembarked earlier that day was now sick, apparently with smallpox, so the plane would have to be thoroughly fumigated. Prabhupada and Ketananda stayed in a room at the Excelsior Hotel for the night. Early the next morning, July 24th, seated in his hotel room, complete with air conditioning and television, neither of which he had used, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Brahmananda in New York. Accept my blessings. I'm always thinking of your separation feelings. Please do your duty nicely, and Krishna will help you in all respects. We were delayed here for 16 hours, starting this morning at 9 for Delhi. The attention of Mr. B.K. Nehru, the ambassador of India, was drawn to me the other day. I have told him about my permanent visa, and he has promised to help me when I come back. Please make an appointment with him, informing that I wish to present him our set of Bhagavatam and our other literatures. Then go to him and personally present the books, etc., at Washington, D.C. It may be that as soon as I feel some strength, I shall be coming back. Up to now, there was no disturbance about my health, and I hope to reach Delhi this night. I shall write you again after reaching Vrindavan. Convey my ardent affection and blessings for all the boys and girls. I am very much hopeful of my movement. Please keep steady, follow all my instructions scrupulously, chant Hare Krishna, and Krishna will give you all strength. Prabhupada and Ketananda flew to Moscow. They were there, they walked around the terminal, observing what Prabhupada called propaganda pictures. After a 1 hour stopover, they reboarded and flew another 8 hours, arriving in Delhi around midnight. The wall of heat that greeted them felt good to Prabhupada. He had come for this. Inside the airport terminal, overhead fans stirred the muggy air as Prabhupada and Ketananda stood in slow moving lines, while uniformed clerks checked passports and customs forms. without Western style computers or efficiency. Just beyond the areas for immigration and customs, people waiting for arriving passengers were waving, calling, and coming together with friends and family members. After Prabhupada and Kirtananda claimed their luggage and cleared customs, they stood on the sidewalk outside the terminal. Although Prabhupada had removed his sweater, Kirtananda stood sweltering in his black wool suit. It was 2 a.m. All around passengers were meeting loved ones who embraced them, sometimes even garlanded them, and helped them into cars or taxis, but no one was there for Prabhupada. It was certainly different from the recent tearful airport scenes, where Prabhupada had been with his loved ones. Now, instead of being surrounded by loving disciples, Prabhupada was besieged by taxi drivers and porters wanting to carry his luggage for a fee. In Hindi, Prabhupada asked one of the drivers to take them to Chippiwada in Old Delhi. The driver put their luggage in the trunk, and Prabhupada and his disciple climbed into the back seat. The small ambassador taxi drove through streets well known to Srila Prabhupada. Nighttime traffic was light, an occasional taxi or motor rickshaw. Mostly the streets were empty and quiet, the shops closed, an occasional person or cow sleeping outdoors. Just a few years before, Prabhupada had sold Back to Godhead magazines, solicited donations, and printed his Srimad Bhagavatams here. In those days, he had been alone, practically without money or residence. Yet, he had been happy, completely dependent on Krishna. But India's leaders were rejecting Vedic culture and imitating the West. Although some Indians still professed to follow Vedic culture, mostly they were victims of hodgepodge teachers who didn't accept Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. So he had felt obligated, or he felt obliged to leave, to go and transplant the Vedic culture in the West. He had held strictly to the vision of his predecessor spiritual masters, and he had been proven right. The West was a very good field for Krishna consciousness. As the taxi drove through Old Delhi and approached Chhavri Bazaar, Prabhupada saw the printing and paper shops, now closed for the night, and the usual dense traffic of human hauled carts was now absent, though some laborers were sleeping on their carts till the morning, when they would bathe in an outdoor well and begin another day's hauling. When Srila Prabhupada had been observing When Srila Prabhupada had been overseeing the publishing of his first volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had daily walked these streets, buying paper, picking up proofs from the printer, returning with the corrected proofs. His first canto had been a triumph. Shabri Bazaar led to side streets that led to the narrow lanes of Chippiwada, where upright metal posts blocked autos and rickshaws from entering. The driver stopped the taxi on an empty road and turned for his payment. Prabhupada took from his billfold 40 rupees, the same 40 rupees he had carried with him on the boat to America in 1965. But the driver took the entire 40 rupees and said he would keep it all as the just fare. Prabhupada protested. The fare should not be even half that. Loudly they argued back and forth in Hindi. The driver had pocketed the money and would give no change. Prabhupada knew that to get a policeman at this hour would be very difficult. Finally, although this had been nothing less than a robbery, Prabhupada let the man go. He cheated me, Prabhupada said. He and Ketananda took their luggage and walked the last block up to the door of the Chippiwada Radhakrishna temple. It was locked. As they pounded loudly, Prabhupada called out for Sri Krishna Pandit until a man came to the door, recognized Prabhupada, and let them in. The man showed them upstairs and unlocked the door to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada turned on the light. The room was bare and dusty, and the bulb hanging from the ceiling created stark light and shadows. On the floor was the 3 foot high cement dome, indicating that directly below were the altar and the deities of Radha and Krishna. The dome prevented anyone from accidentally committing the offense of walking directly above the deities. The closet was stacked with printed Srimad Bhagavatam pages, Srimad Bhagavatam dust jackets, and form letters to prospective members of the League of the Devotees. Everything was just as Prabhupada had left it. This is the room where I compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Prabhupada told Kirtanananda. I slept here, and over here was my cooker and my typewriter. I would sleep and type and cook and type and sleep and type. Kirtananda was shocked to think of Swamiji living here in such a poor, humble place. It wasn't even clean. Although Kirtananda was uncomfortable in his suit and wondered when he would be able to get rid of it, he managed to get a thin mattress for Swamiji. Two Ayurvedic doctors came. They both agreed that the trouble was Swamiji's heart, but that the danger was now past. They gave him medicines and advised him to keep to a regulated schedule of eating, resting, and working. Shri Krishna Pandit came by to sit and converse, and Prabhupada told him of his success in America and of all the young devotees in New York and San Francisco. Prabhupada played his record for Sri Krishna Pandit, and this drew a crowd of curious persons from other rooms in the temple. In the afternoon, Prabhupada developed a cough. It didn't seem serious, and he said he wanted to travel the next day to Vrindavan. But by evening, the cough had become persistent. He couldn't rest. Kirtananda tried massages and the pills the Ayurvedic doctors had prescribed, but nothing worked. Prabhupada remained awake all night, and when Kirtananda touched him in the morning, he was feverish. The doctors came again. Prabhupada's temperature was over 104. They gave teas and Ayurvedic powders, while Kirtananda looked on skeptically. Because Prabhupada was having a lot of difficulty breathing when he lay down, Kirtananda thought it might be pneumonia. So Kirtananda gave him penicillin, of which he had brought a supply. In the afternoon, an elderly sick doctor who practiced Western medicine came by and gave Prabhupada a penicillin injection. Prabhupada then fell asleep and rested quietly for the first time in 24 hours. While Prabhupada slept, Kirtananda wrote a letter to his godbrothers in New York. I know you would like me to say straight out my opinion as to how he is, and that is not good. The outcome, as always, but now very apparently, is only in Krishna's hands. Please chant Hare Krishna, for that is the only thing that can save him. That is what saved him before, and that can do it again. I know that his task is not yet complete, and by Krishna's mercy, he can again be spared. Kirtananda also asked the New York devotees to call the devotees in San Francisco, Santa Fe, and Boston and have them continue chanting for Swamiji's health. He reminded them to strictly follow all of Swamiji's instructions. The next day, Srila Prabhupada's fever was down to 100.6. He was still sick, but he talked again of going to Vrindavan. He dictated a letter to his book-selling agents in Delhi, Atmaram and Sons, asking them for an up-to-date account of their sales of Srimad Bhagavatam. Old acquaintances came by and were disappointed to find Swamiji unable to accept their invitations. Prabhupada asked that they invite Kirtananda in his stead. For several days, Kirtananda visited the homes of these pious Hindus. He played the record on his portable phonograph, chanting along and dancing with his arms upraised. Then he would give a short speech. His hosts accepted him as a sadhu, fascinated that an American had taken so seriously to Krishna consciousness. On August 1st, after 6 days in Delhi, Prabhupada went to Vrindavan. Kirtananda rode back to New York. My dear brothers and sisters, greetings in the name of Krishna from Vrindavan. Obviously, Swamiji is much better, especially after reaching Vrindavan. His eyes now have a special glow. We left Delhi yesterday, 31st morning on the Taj Express, and in 2 hours were at Mathura. We rode special third class, and it was quite satisfactory, not at all crowded like the usual third class. Anyway, we are now here and are in the process of settling down. Swamiji has two very nice rooms, quite cool, just off the porch where the Bhagavatam is read. How appropriate. The only difficulty on his behalf is that these Indians all want to see him, and they are very persistent, and I am not very successful in keeping them out. Vrindavan, seen materially, is a very beautiful place. The country is very flat, and there are many trees, monkeys, peacocks, and of course temples. It is also very poor. Both the people and the temples are in a bad state of disrepair. But spiritually considered, there are many great devotees here, and it is wonderful to walk down the streets and see tealogs all over the place and people chanting on their beads. If I can develop a fraction of their devotion for Krishna, my life will be successful. It is also thrilling to hear the temple bells ringing so many times throughout the day. Last night I played our record for Lord Damodar here in the temple and then performed kirtan with some of the local devotees. It was very nice. But you will be surprised, I think, when I say that I prefer your kirtan in New York. After Prabhupada had been in Vrindavan only one day and his health had only slightly improved, he began planning his return to America. I'm always thinking of you, he wrote to the devotees, whom he addressed as his dear students. I cannot stop my Western world activities, and I have taken leave from you only for 6 months. And it may be that on or before I will come to you again. Kitananda says from my bodily feature that I'm improving. I'm also feeling like that. In Delhi, Prabhupada had received a letter from Brahmananda saying that the Macmillan Company was definitely interested in publishing the Bhagavad Gita. In Vrindavan, Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda to sign a contract at once on his behalf. Prabhupada had been considering whether to print privately in Japan or India or to wait for Macmillan. He wasn't considered with the prestige and financial advantages publishing through Macmillan. His first concern was to print as quickly as possible. I shall be satisfied with the commission and shall only be glad to see that the books are being read by hundreds and thousands of men. Whatever profit may be derived from it will be utilized for the development of an American house here. Prabhupada stayed in his old rooms at Radha Damodar temple Still incapacitated, he was being massaged and cared for by Ketananda, who himself was listless and tired from the heat. But Prabhupada continued to range from one active and ambitious vision for his youthful Krishna consciousness movement to another. He would think aloud about the volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam ready to be published, if Macmillan would take them and the boys could act on his behalf. There was so much to do. He wanted to return by October and oversee things personally. Temperatures rose to more than 110 degrees, and Prabhupada and Kirtananda had to stay inside with the doors shut and the overhead fan on. Although Kirtananda could barely perform his duties, Prabhupada found the heat bracing and said that it was restoring his health. Then, after the first week, the monsoon rains began and the heat broke. On August 10th, Kirtananda wrote home again. God is God is it a hot place? But at last the rains have started again and there is some relief from the heat. You can believe me when I say it was hot, but now it is raining a great deal of time, and that has made the weather quite comfortable for me. But unfortunately not for Swamiji. Also, I have developed the inevitable case of dysentery, which has been persisting for about a week now. Yesterday began the festival of Jhulan, in which Radha and Krishna came out and swing for about 5 days. So I made the rounds of about a half a dozen temples here. Some of them are extremely beautiful inside, although most are small. Still, I can say this with all truthfulness and sincerity that none are so transcendently beautiful and spiritual as 3720 Park Avenue, Montreal. And I think even Swamiji would agree with me here. Kitananda's letter gave heart to the devotees back home and confirmed their suspicion. It was not Hinduism, not India, it was Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna that was sustaining their spiritual life. Hare Krishna. Okay, I think we'll pause here and we'll continue from this tomorrow. Yeah, I can take any thoughts, reflections, any comments from today's reading. It's like coming home, back home for Srila Prabhupada. 110 degrees. Even that gives us nervous feelings now, thinking of 110 degrees. But as Prabhupada entered India, that the first, you know, breath of air or wave of air that touches your body when you, when you step out of the aircraft, when you land in Delhi, it is so familiar. Right, coming coming from US and in the aircraft, and then suddenly you step out, and as you walk out into the airport, especially at Delhi, I can remember that many times. Suddenly the air is completely different, and of course this was 1967, so it would have been even more different without all the modern technologies. You could see even, I think, the devotees in New York, in New York, yeah, when they're at the airport, they could go all the way up to the aircraft, it looks like. So there was the observation deck from where they can see the aircraft going. But yeah, we see again the mood of Prabhupada is like he's just come to Vrindavan and already is thinking of going back to America. How much he loved his disciples and how much love he had, that yeah, already he was writing letters and sharing his heart, sharing his blessings and encouraging them. It's a utsaha, like he was building their utsaha, their their enthusiasm, and continuing even in his absence. And this was like a mini trial, right? Because of course Prabhupada knew he was old, he was not going to be here for long, but he was giving them the doses of encouragement, enthusiasm, and mercy, even while he was in transit in London and then in Moscow and now here. And after reaching Delhi and Vrindavan, a lot to travel for a man of 71 years, 71, 72 years old almost. And yeah, physically this was exhausting for him, but yeah, he felt a sense of homecoming once he reached his land of Vrindavan. Whereas there we see how Kirtananda Prabhu, and it's also very fascinating because Kirtananda, I was talking to Meenakshi Mohini the other day, Kirtananda Prabhu, we see how much he personally served Srila Prabhupada, and both in America and even like we saw when Rupanuga Prabhu, I think, was embracing Srila Prabhupada, and he was standing behind him, and he could see that smile on his face when Prabhupada was embracing him as a strong man. And again, the Prabhupada's strength there also, if you think of how much Kirtananda Maharaj, at that time, of course, he was Kirtan Prabhu, how much he had massage, like he was a personal servant of Srila Prabhupada, massaging him day and night. So it's kind of Prabhupada's health at that point of time was a lot of credit should go to him for how he personally served Srila Prabhupada, both in America and here, even despite this being foreign climate and foreign place for him, he adjusted, right? How much he kind of personal sacrifice. So we see this kind of in many lives of close associates and servants of the Lord also, right? Even like we said, the example of Kaikai and because we see, and of course, when we'll read in the future, we'll see how he kind of fell down and or he acted not according to the principles that Srila Prabhupada established in New Vrindavan, and then there was a lot of turmoil. But somehow, I don't know, I just personally feel like, it is sometimes those are the close associates of the Lord, closest associates, who are given the most abominable service also, right? To teach us what not to be done, right? Because again, all everything that happens is the Lord's pastimes and Leela. And somebody has to be the bad guy, the bad actor. But they are the most pure devotees of the Lord, just like Jay Vijay, playing the role of Hiranyakashipu and all the demons. They're all pure devotees. They're maybe the closest of the devotees of the Lord, and that's why they are given that most kind of hardest and very painful service, abominable service to go against the Lord. So similarly, maybe down the road when we'll read, but we see how much of surrender and sacrifice he did personally for Srila Prabhupada. So yeah, eventually he kind of fell away, but I know he kind of then regretted and then came back. But yeah, it was not a very glorious life that he led after Prabhupada left. But from these initial days, it gives that sense of feeling that how much he served Srila Prabhupada personally, and eventually he got to play that role which nobody else would love to play, the negative role in the movie. But he did his part. Maybe that is what was meant for him, and still he left gloriously. So anyway, so we'll continue reading further tomorrow. Any other thoughts, comments from anybody?
Yes, Prabhuji. I feel that the Americans, the Westerners, they were more the reciprocating, and they had deep love towards Prabhupada, uh, because the Indians, they had not accepted him. That is why he went to the Western. Only after going to America and he came back to Vrindavan, then they started. Oh, the Westerners and the Americans are accepted it, and it is so great. And that is why it made Prabhupada to have more love and affection with them, because they were taking him so sincerely, and they are serving him with wholeheartedly. And I feel Nandan Prabhuji, he was so close to Prabhupada. And this is the thing I felt, Prabhuji, that how they were reciprocating, and how each and everybody, they were so anxious to hear about his health, and how he was also giving the report of day to day how Prabhupada was feeling. So how attached they were to Prabhupada. Instead of India or Hinduism or anything, that word I liked, where they like Swamiji, and the chanting of Hare Krishna is one of the important things in their life. So even today, to this day, I feel that they are so dedicated, so prompt, and so sincere in their services to Lord Krishna and Prabhupada. That's what I felt, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Mm. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Yeah, like we read there, it was so different, right? Because at the airport when Prabhupada came to San Francisco, there's 50 devotees chanting Hare Krishna, and when he left, there were all his disciples again at the airport to see him off. And here he comes to his own country, and there is only taxi drivers and nobody to receive him, right? How ironical that is. And I don't know what would have gone through Ketananda Prabhu's mind at that time. Like he would have seen all the scenes in US at the airports. So much of love and so many people thronging the airport to see Swamiji. And here he comes. to his own country, and there's absolutely nobody to receive him. So yeah, those were the times. Thank you, Mataji. Anybody else would like to share anything? Okay, all right. If no other comments, then we'll pause here. Thank you so much for your kind association. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavrind ki jai, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrit ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavad pranams.
Krishna, Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.